The forest in Sector 12 is not trees and birds. It's a filter. It processes time, straining it through its undergrowth, keeping only what should never have existed. I was sent there to refresh the boundary markers, 97 routine maintenance, 2 hours at most. But I found something worse than an old body rotting in the leaves. I found a cabin. It wasn't on the satellite images. It wasn't in any of my reports, or any report I could find in the archive going back 11 years. But the strangest thing wasn't that it had appeared from nowhere. The strangest thing was that it had no windows. Only one door, 97, and a single sheet of paper nailed to it with a rust-eaten nail. I almost didn't go in. I want to say that clearly because I've asked myself 100 times since whether a different version of me, 97, a smarter version, a version that had read more carefully between the lines of the Sector 12 briefing, 97 would have turned around at the door, would have noted the location, marked it on the map, called it in, and gone home to eat something warm and sleep without dreaming. That version of me doesn't exist. I went in. The cabin looked like it had been built from the bones of old ships. Black timber, warped and swollen, smelling of machine oil and wet earth, and something underneath both of those things that I don't have a word for. 97, something animal, something old. The walls were thick. The single room inside was smaller than it should have been given the exterior dimensions, which I noticed and then stopped thinking about because some observations are doors you don't want to open. In the center of the room stood a table. On the table, a kerosene lamp, burning low. In the noir darkness of that windowless space, the flame looked alive. 97, it trembled. Threw shadows against the walls that moved with too much intention. Shadows that seemed to be responding to something other than the light. On the table beside the lamp lay a journal. The cover read, "Property of Sector 12, 97, do not open." I opened it. The first page was blank, except for long, vertical scratches, 97 deep ones, gouged into the paper rather than written on it. The kind of marks that are made by something other than a pen. I turned to the second page. The rules. They were written in handwriting that started neat and became increasingly ragged as the list progressed, as if whoever was writing had been doing so under worsening conditions, 97, or worsening clarity. Rule number 1. If you entered the cabin on a sunny day, leave immediately. The windowless walls were not built to protect you from the light. They were built to hide what sunlight does to the shadows inside. I had entered in the late afternoon under overcast sky. I kept reading. Rule number 4. If you hear something scratching along the exterior wall, do not turn to face it. The wood here is thinner than a human hair to the things outside. Your gaze is an invitation to enter. I read that one twice. I looked at the walls. The timber looked solid enough. I told myself that was reassuring. Rule number 9. If the lamp begins to dim despite having oil remaining, it is already in the room. Do not attempt to light a match. Close your eyes and count backward from 100. If at the count of 1 you still feel cold breath on the back of your neck, 97, do not open your eyes. Not ever again. I was still staring at rule number 9 when the lamp coughed. The flame shrank to the size of a pinpoint. The cabin dropped into a darkness so complete, I lost my hands. 97, I could feel them, but I could not see them, couldn't find the edges of myself in that blackness. The lamp still had oil. I had checked before I sat down because I am an engineer by instinct and checking available resources is automatic. The lamp had oil. The lamp was dying. Then I heard it, a knock. Slow, rhythmic, deliberate 97, not the random sound of a branch in wind, but the sound of something moving in a circuit around the exterior of the cabin, dragging something sharp along the boards. It was behind me, it moved to my left. It kept going, and I sat absolutely still, and I kept my eyes fixed on the center of the room, on the fading point of the flame. Because rule number 4 was the clearest thing in my mind and the only anchor I had. Don't turn toward the sound. Your gaze is an invitation. The scratching completed a circuit and began another. I was managing. I was following the rules. And then, at the edge of my vision, 97 in the deep shadow of the far corner, where the lamplight no longer reached 97, I saw the wall move. Not shake, not shudder. Move, the way a membrane moves. The way something pressed from the other side presses through a surface that has become, in this moment and in this place, less solid than it appears. The wood bowed inward slowly, silently, with the patience of something that has done this before and knows the material will yield. A finger came through. Long gray, without a nail, without the particular texture of human skin, 97 more. Like something that had learned the shape of a finger from description rather than example. It felt along the interior surface of the wall. A second finger followed. A third. I did not count backward from 100. I don't remember crossing the room. I don't remember opening the door. My next clear memory is branches, 97 branches, hitting my face and arms as I ran through the forest in a direction I chose entirely by instinct, with no light and no map and no sense of distance. Behind me, I heard nothing I could name as footsteps. What I heard was the sound of tearing paper, 97, not paper exactly, but something with that quality, that lightness, as if the fabric of the forest itself was coming apart at the seams and trying to close the distance between us. I reached the perimeter road. I reached the checkpoint. I was in the patrol car, with the heater running and a cup of terrible coffee in my hand, before my breathing returned to anything like normal. I filed a report that mentioned an unregistered structure, possible evidence of long-term unauthorized occupation, and a suspected animal disturbance. I did not mention the journal. I did not mention the fingers. There is no language in the incident report forms for what I would have needed to describe. It was when I reached into my jacket pocket for my pen that I found it. A page, torn from the journal, 97. I knew the paper immediately. That particular weight and texture. The faint machine oil smell still on it. I didn't remember taking it. I don't believe I took it. But it was in my pocket, and I unfolded it under the orange light of the street lamp outside the checkpoint window. One side I recognized. The rules, the scratched handwriting, the list I had read in the dying lamplight. The other side had been blank when I was in the cabin. I was certain of this 97. I'd turned the page over before the darkness fell, and it had been empty. It was not empty now. New lines were forming in the lower half of the page. Ink that was still wet, glistening slightly under the street lamp, the letters appearing in the slow and deliberate manner of something being written in real time. I watched the last word complete itself and sat for a long moment before I could read it. Rule number 10. If you are reading this in safety, it means you brought the cabin with you. The windows in your home no longer matter. Count to 5. I have not counted to 5. I want to be clear about that. I have not said those words aloud or in my head in sequence since that night. I don't know what happens at 5, and I intend to keep not knowing. But I'll tell you what I've noticed in the 6 weeks since. The shadows in my apartment move a fraction of a second after the light changes. When I wake at night, the room smells faintly of machine oil and wet earth. And sometimes 97, not always, not even often, but sometimes 97, I hear something from outside my walls. Slow, rhythmic, moving in a circuit. I keep my eyes fixed on the center of the room. I do not turn toward the sound.